when you crossed over into this world of obsession or dark fantasy from which you just couldn't return. Can you pinpoint that? Is there a sense for when that really began to happen with you, Jeff?
I think it was around age 14 or 15. Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse. I didn't know how to tell anyone about it, so I didn't. I just kept it all inside.
Do you have any sense for where that was coming from?
No. No, I've talked with a few psychologists about it. They have their theories, but they don't have any concrete answers either.
Do you have a theory?
No, not really. I don't know where it came from. I probably will never know. But I never dreamed that it would become. Sleeping pill mixture already prepared, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts.
Serial killer facts you probably didn't know. Part 3. Jeffrey Dahmer had so many bodies in his apartment that he ran out of space and stored one of his victims in his bathtub. He then proceeded to shower over him every single day for a month. Think about that, standing over a rotting corpse while you take a shower. Guy was absolutely insane. Since the 1980s, there's still 227,000 unsolved murders from serial killers. You walk past 36 serial killers in your whole lifetime. Like and follow for more.
5 disturbing things you didn't know about Jeffrey Dahmer. Some of his victims' families tried to sue Budweiser because their advertising contributed to his alcoholism and therefore his murders. That sandwich scene from Dahmer actually happened, but it was with his neighbor Pamela Bass and not Glinda Cleveland. She and Jeffrey had a friendly relationship and he'd often come by with food and they'd watch the news together. It wasn't until after his arrest she realized the sandwich could have contained human meat. The show I definitely feel like tried to insinuate that it was, but honestly, based off everything I've read, it doesn't seem like that was his personality. He underwent double hernia surgery at just 4 years old. And when he was recovering in the hospital, he saw where the bandages were and asked his mom if they cut off his private part, something he would go on to do to others. After his surgery, his father said that the happy, energetic, and normal child that he knew had just changed somehow. Another red flag in his childhood is that his father said Jeffrey got hit really hard on the head. And psychologists actually believe that traumatic brain injuries are a top predictor of murderous behavior. And a lot of serial killers had head injuries in their childhoods. And lastly, everyone was horrified at the number of victims, and the city of Milwaukee actually planned a memorial garden for them. But as everyone knows, the case of Jeffrey Dahmer became one of the most famous crime stories in history. And Jeffrey Dahmer actually started to get his own fans. And his fans donated over $10,000 to him in prison. And because of this, the Milwaukee mayor decided to axe plans for the memorial garden. He was worried that people would deface the memorial or leave tributes for the serial killer instead of for his victims. So his apartment building in Milwaukee was torn down and there is currently no memorial garden. If you like this video, let me know in the comments and follow for more.
Between 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer is believed to have murdered 17 men. He was strategic when it came to his victims and would often only prey on men who were on the fringes of society and were less likely to be noticed if they went missing. He would lure men to his home with the promise of sex or money and would then strangle them to death. He would engage in sexual acts with their bodies and would keep body parts and photos as souvenirs. Jeffrey was obsessed with the Emperor from Star Wars and the Gemini Killer from The Exorcist 3. He felt so connected to these characters that he would wear colored contacts to look like them and would often watch the films before going out to find a victim. He would also sometimes make his victims watch the films with him. Jeffrey's first murder occurred in June of 1978, shortly after he graduated high school. He picked up hitchhiker Stephen Hicks and took him back to his parents' house. He proceeded to get Stephen drunk, and when he ultimately tried to leave, Jeffrey struck him in the head and strangled him with a barbell. He went on to dismember the corpse, packed the body parts in plastic bags, and buried them behind his parents' home. He would later go back, dig up the remains, crush them with a sledgehammer, and scatter them across a wooded ravine. For the next 9 years, Jeffrey committed no additional murders. He said that this was simply because of lack of opportunity, not because he didn't want to. After moving to Milwaukee, Jeffrey started frequenting gay bars, and that's where he met 28-year-old Stephen Twomey. In September of 1987, Jeffrey and Stephen checked into a hotel room to get drunk. Jeffrey claims to have woken up the next morning to find Stephen dead, and he had no memory of the previous night. He purchased a large suitcase to bring the body to his grandmother's basement, where he would dismember the corpse and inward on the remains before disposing of them. Jeffrey would go on to take the lives of 2 more victims while living with his grandmother until she kicked him out in 1988. His grandmother had no real knowledge of what was going on, but she knew something wasn't right. In September of 1989, Jeffrey was charged with sexual exploitation and second-degree sexual assault of a 13-year-old boy. While awaiting sentencing, Jeffrey would go on to kill aspiring model Anthony Sears. He would lure Anthony to his grandmother's home where he would drug him, strangle him, sodomize him, photograph him, and dismember him.
In the last interview he granted before his death, he made a stunning admission that he still had fantasies of killing.
It never completely goes away. I'll probably have to live with it for the rest of my life. I wish it would go away. I wish there was some way to completely get rid of the compulsive thoughts, the feelings. It's not nearly so bad now that there's no avenues to actually act on it. But no, it never seems to go completely away.